Anytime we can sit down and collaborate as business owners and entrepreneurs to share information with each other, that's just how we empower ourselves. So I hope everyone enjoys our session today, and feel free to jump into the chat room, introduce yourself, put your business name and any information about your company there, and also let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. This is truly a blessing and an opportunity just to be able to just, have a good conversation about business and just talk about some of the things that, some practical things that you should do, should not do, and just a good conversation this morning as we converse with each other. So looking forward to it. So good morning, everyone.
But we just try to have an open dialogue about what it's like to be a business owner. I found that being an attorney, that a lot of people who might even consider business, they don't even get put their boat into the river because of something that's hanging them up. Sometimes it's taxes or insurance or, I'm not sure. And so what we try to do in the business owner mindset is sort of, let people have a safe space to ask questions. How do I set up a company? How do I get customers? How do I open up a bank account? And a lot of times, even if they're not live, they're watching this later. So they'll say, and I send people in my law firm to the Facebook Live videos so that they can go back and see. I said, hey, I did a session on LLCs, or I did a session on insurance. Go watch it. So I love being a business attorney. I think I've said that a million times on here. But one of the things I like about being a business attorney is working with business owners, and they're different people. Right? They are 2 to 8% of the Americans who go out and earn their living solely off of their business. And understanding that you're dealing with a rare group of individuals, you have to understand what their characteristics are so that you can cater your audience and cater your speech towards that audience. So there's a lot of people who are business owners. There's a lot of people who want to be business owners, but there's only a small percentage that are actually business owners. So what we try to do is take those people who are interested to be business owners, the 54% of Americans, and try to move them over into becoming actual business owners. And the first thing you have to understand about that is that we think differently. And the way you have to start to change your thinking process is you have to get information that change your habits, and then habits come into your result. So a lot of times, if you are thinking of starting a business, you have all these questions and doubts and things that are coming into your head, and you have to get information, and information starts to put you in a position to make different habits. And then the habits ultimately ends up when you sell your product or offer your services, you build confidence that you can go out and make money off of the service or products you offer. And one of the things that we have to concentrate on is that being a business owner, you have to take risk. You have to take the money that you have in your savings account, in your bank account, and you have to put it into play and make risks. You have to hire somebody to do your website. You have to hire someone to do your business cards. You have to hire someone to clean your building, find some rent, whatever it takes. You have to take money that you've saved up to put it at risk. And so what we try to do here is we try to make the risk minimum. Everybody has to put money at risk. Everybody on this Zoom has taken their own personal money, 401k, savings account, and they've risked it with the idea that your risk is going to pay off. And that's part of being an entrepreneur. And one of the things that we try to do here is to develop the mental process for that risk. How do we problem solve? How do we make things happen as a business owner, given that we're all taking the same risk? We're all taking our same money and saying, how are we going to make more money? And I've developed some principles that I think are consistently applied in the business owner's mindset, right? And that is the number one thing that they're thinking of is revenue. Then they have to think about outsourcing the things that they don't specialize in. And then lastly, networking and how they manage their time. So in a regular employee, they might get up, go to sleep, go to work. Business owners do things a little bit differently. They're very efficient with their time. And every time they wake up in the morning, they're immediately thinking about revenue. There's no, you don't wait till you get into the shower, wait till you get to the car, wait till you get to the office and then think. A business owner wakes up thinking like, oh, I have to get the email out. Oh, I have to, post this on Instagram or whatever. So that's sort of how we manage our time in those 12 to 16 hours of our day where we're not sleeping and we're not, going to work out and whatever else we're doing. We're focusing in on how do we make more money? How do we get more money out of our time? Because there's no grants for new startup business owners. There's no loans for new startup business owners. You just have to take that inertia of your energy and turn it into revenue. So what we try to do is remind people that if you're going through this process, you're not alone. We're all thinking about revenue all the time. That drives your business. If normally to save money, you would budget and then have your salary come in. Well, business owners, the only way out is to make more money. You have to constantly make more money. And what you're thinking of is, when you're thinking of your day in 12 to 6 hours, is how can I make more money with my 12 to 6 hours, 12 to 16 hours? And one of the things we do that is we spend time with other business owners. We spend time with our customers. We spend time thinking and talking and other people about, how to make more money. One of the things that we cannot do is get stuck with paralysis by analysis, where, you're spending 2 weeks to get your business started because you're trying to research LLCs. Well, guess what? I can do that in a half hour. And so you have to find the people who are specialize in the things you don't understand. If you're a business owner, if you're making cookie, you shouldn't spend a weekend trying to build a website. You need to say, I'd rather spend the weekend making cookies and selling them, and I'll hire someone and do my website. You shouldn't spend 2 weeks trying to set up an agreement with you and a partner when you can hire someone to do that. So really, if you're going to be a business owner, you have to understand that it's okay that you don't know everything, but you can't spend all your time trying to learn everything. And, people will try to learn how to do a bank account and learn QuickBooks and learn how to do websites and then learn graphics for a logo. And you're here, trying to go out and flip houses. So you need to be out looking at houses. You need to go out and looking at, lenders, not doing those things. So the first thing we have to, one of the things we have to understand is free yourself, that you don't know everything. You can learn it, but we're not going to spend our time learning it. And then focusing in on relationships, getting out, networking, stepping away from your comfort zone, getting on Zooms, reading those emails and seeing what makes sense in terms of joining virtual meetings now, especially now that you have a lot of virtual meetings, is even in the field. A lot of these expensive, marketplace seminars that you can go to now are doing it at half the price or a small fraction of the price on Zoom. And there's no separate side rooms where all the important people are, meeting when you go to these big conferences and you don't know which room to go in. Now they're all in front of you. So even now, more than ever, it's important to network, meet people, start to expand your relationships and get to understand a little bit about business. We've talked about this before, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this today, but we actually kind of, sort of sort out how your mind thinks through these hexagons. And if you're a business owner, usually when you're starting up, you're spending 60% of your mind on structure. Like, how do I get this off the ground? How do I make sure that I'm not doing something wrong where I'm going to get sued? And then you spend about 30% of your time on the actual business itself. And these hexagons can change depending on the kind of business that you're offering. If you're offering services, you might focus more on people and customer service, et cetera. If you're doing a product, you might spend more time on inventory, et cetera. But these hexagons change. And then you're ultimately still looking at, on growth side, what am I going to do next? Am I going to do another business? How am I balancing work life? How am I doing volunteering work? Am I donating? So your mind as a business owner is bouncing between all of these sort of hexagons. And there's probably thousands of hexagons we can put on this screen. But the idea is that's okay. Like, hey, if you're experiencing these moments where you're, caught in the hexagonal structure and caught in the hexagon on networking and caught in the hexagon on raising capital, it's okay. It happens in our industry and as business owners, and that's okay. We just got to start getting information. So today we are focusing in on customers. So I got that out, Shar. I drudged through that and I got through it. And now we're talking about customers. We're getting to the meat of this. Everybody can now, focus in on Nakia. Nakia, tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and then we can start a conversation. So where you from? I know Atlanta, you say that to everybody, right? But I'm from east side, west side. Atlanta, you say where you from. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Born and raised in Philadelphia. Moved to Atlanta, I think back in 2000. So I guess you might as well say I'm an Atlantean now, so to speak.
2000, that counts. That's 20 years. Yeah.
No, right? So I might as well say I'm from Atlanta now since I spent the majority of my life here. So I've been, much like you, I've been an entrepreneur. The running joke is I always say all the way back in the 5th grade, when I went to the local bodega and bought a pack of Now and Laters, and I took them to school, and, everybody always wanted candy, gum, something. So I was like, oh, okay. So instead of everybody just having to always, wanting to go find it or buy it themselves, how about I just, go ahead and be the supplier myself and just bring the candy in. So that was my first little.
Do you still sell candy?
No.
That
Don't
sounded
sell
good. I
candy.
want some now laters.
No, man. But you used to go and get the penny candy. You can go sell it for like $1. I mean, I'm not $1.
You were the guy I was waiting at your locker at lunchtime.
Exactly.
Come on, man. Open up this locker. I need to get this now laters.
Right. So,
you got some change? You got some change?
I know, right? Yeah. So, so I've continued with that, that thought, I've had jobs in between, but there was always that burning entrepreneurial spirit inside of me. And I just couldn't imagine just spending the rest of my life, not that there's anything wrong with it, but just sitting behind a desk, clocking into someone and consistently being told what to do, what not to do, and all of that. And so I just felt like that my skill set and just my personality and everything about me was best suited as an entrepreneur. So in the process, I've had several businesses. And I still have a couple of businesses that I own and operate right now. But more importantly, out of all the things that I do, I pride myself in just being a servant to the entrepreneur, being a servant, taking all the bumps and bruises of everything that I've been through, and take the time to help mentor other young entrepreneurs through that process to help them understand what it's like to kind of grow. Now, I know I spent a lot of my time focused on your deeper technologies, in that space. But, at the end of the day, helping an entrepreneur grow, there's some basic principles, which some of the things that we're going to talk about today, that getting, keeping, and growing your customer base and understanding your customer. And what are some of those unique experiences?
Wow. So we're going to get into that, but I'm not going to let you get off the hook that easy with your background. Let's talk about, so are you a family guy? Do you how do you balancing just your life as an entrepreneur? How's that going? How's that going for you just in terms of your day-to-day managing of your businesses?
Yeah, so it's like if you ever go to the circus and you remember that guy that had that stick and he had all those plates. There's just so that's how I kind of balance the puppy, the daughter, the mom, that balance everything here. So it's like for me, it's like the thing is that when you love what you do, you're never working. Right. And so when I'm up at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning responding to emails or text messages, because I do get an overwhelming amount of emails, and that is one of the things that I'm trying to get better at is responding. I always tell people, Slack me or text me, you'll get me faster as it relates to that. But yeah, so it's a juggle sometimes. I mean, entrepreneurship is a full-time, full contact sport. You mentioned earlier about, the hunt. I think it was something about going out and hunting or getting your product. I can't remember exactly how you said it. And I always like to use a term that as an entrepreneur, you got to, put on your hunting gear, get your rifle, load the gun, go out to the woods, find the animal, kill the animal, skin the animal, process the animal, bring the animal home, and then you feed your family. And then guess what? As an entrepreneur, you got to repeat that same cycle every day. So as an employee, someone's going and doing the hunting and the killing for you. Now while your unique gifts help support that effort, but at the end of the day, someone else is doing the heavy lifting for you. So,
tell me what's the benefits of doing that? Like what? We sometimes, you see the hexagons, you see all this stuff. Dave Walker's talking about LLC and structure. The kids telling me I got to hunt and skin a bear and stuff like that. What is the benefit of that? Tell us, why would you do that? Why would you be an entrepreneur? What benefit is it to do all this craziness?
Yeah, once you get past all of the hard stuff, and once you get past like all of the stuff that kind of like is that, man, I don't have any revenue, I don't have any customers yet, all of that initial early on stuff. Once you get to that place that where, you're hitting that $1 million ARR, where you've got some employees and you're able to grow, you're able to scale, and you're able to make an impact and a difference. And, that's that place of freedom. That's that place where it's like, okay, now I have my business at a place that where I can be creative and do new things and create new products or whatever, so for me, it's the joy of knowing that I get to take the best of my creativity and infuse that into entrepreneurship and create things. And it's not easy, but but I enjoy the fact that I have control over my destiny and someone else not having control of my destiny.
That's such an intangible. For me, it's going to the movies on Tuesday afternoon and getting the best popcorn and nobody's in the theater.
Right.
There's no coronavirus on Tuesday where
For
you by
sure.
yourself watch the movie. And as an entrepreneur, you have the freedom to do that. Going
Right.
to your kids, afternoon play, or working out in the middle of the day. I think that the freedom of the time management, is
Right.
a really big part of it for me. Is I enjoy the idea that yes, it's a lot of pressure. Yes, it's a lot of constant. You're always on. Like I take business cards to the beach, right? I mean, you're
Right.
always on.
Right.
And that can be overwhelming, but you have to realize the benefits of it is that, hey, no one's going to yell at me. No one's going to fire me. The jobs report doesn't matter to me.
Right.
The only jobs report I care about is the one that comes through the Bank of America, the bank statement.
Right.
What's in my account is the only jobs I
Right.
care about. So I think that that's an important part. I see that you were in the ATDC Cafe there at Georgia Tech. I don't know, is that a video game in the back there that you guys play?
Yeah,
Tell us, what are you doing there and what do you do for them?
Yeah, so actually that's our my background. I'm actually at home, but that's our background. Everybody always says like, "Are you there?" I'm like, "No, it's just a background." So Advanced ATDC stands for Advanced Technology Development Center. It's one of the oldest, longest running incubators associated with a university in the country. And ATDC is, we primarily focus on your high tech, deep tech type startups that are high growth. We have an economic mission to help grow technology jobs here in Georgia. And through that, we have companies in our portfolio from fintech to life science to health tech to, and manufacturing and AI and all these different types of technologies. And so we have coaches, which I'm one of the coaches on staff. We have several coaches. And we have companies within our portfolio that are assigned to us, and our responsibility is to help them grow, help them be successful. We have, in-house investor relations where we help make the connections and facilitate connections with venture capitalists. And then, of course, at being at Georgia Tech, we have, the resources of, the manufacturing professors, all the things that we have on campus to help our entrepreneurs kind of grow. When you look at most of, I'm not going to say all, but a majority of the money that's raised in the South or the Southeast is raised at ATDC. So we have a very successful coaching staff there and very successful entrepreneurs that kind of get in, grind. We don't take any equity or anything like that. We're just there to support the entrepreneur. So ATDC does a lot of things in our company. So if you want to learn more, just go to atdc.org to learn more about what we do. And we also have programming as well, as far as classes and workshops and trainings and things that we do.
So I have a question, because you just went from the guy that sold now laters out of his locker to talk about fintech and incubators. So suppose I made an app. Let's call it Now Later on Demand.
Right.
And I wanted to sell. Do I just walk through the front door of ATDC and say, "Hey, I have an app, give me money"? And because I saw Nakia on Saturday, he said y'all have money and I have this app. Tell me, what can I expect to, what kind of companies are you looking for? At what stage should they be at where you say, "Hey, we can help you," if you have an idea, or do you have to kind of have a business? Tell me what phases you have to be in before I can come to ATDC to ask for help in fundraising.
Yeah. So we are focused on technology companies, and that's a good example of using the app, for example. So we have 3 different phases at ATDC. We have the educate, accelerate, and signature. Anyone can join as an educate member, where you get access to our classes, our resources, our mentor pool.
And that's a companies that haven't really done anything yet. They just have a great idea.
Correct.
And they just say, "Okay, I have an idea. How do I move it past the starting point?" Okay.
Yep, absolutely. So we have several classes like customer discovery, financial literacy, investor readiness, all these classes that are held within the Educate program at
And
ATD.
this is free?
Well, it's $100 a quarter. Well, $100 a year, $25 a quarter.
Okay. Okay.
And mainly that's just more so just the maintenance of the
Yeah,
programming,
of
maintenance of
course.
that. So it's nothing, nothing too arduous for
Yeah.
the entrepreneur or
Oh, that's
anything
good.
like that. Yeah, and then
Nothing
we
comes for
have
free. Nothing
yeah,
comes
right,
for free.
right,
Learn
right.
that quickly in business. Nothing comes for free. And my
Exactly.
hourly rate is $3.95 an hour. So paying $100 to get
A
that
year,
information
right?
is well within the safe boundaries of starting a business. So,
Right.
all right. So
For
I
sure.
paid my $100. I went through the education. You mentioned you had other sections too.
Yeah. So we have Accelerate, which is portfolio companies where Accelerate and Signature is you have to be invited into the portfolio to be an Accelerate company.
Okay.
And then that's where you get assigned someone like me or one of the other coaches that are in their portfolio. And how that works is like, say, for instance, if there's a company that they're very, they've got some traction, they've got some technologies that truly is fundable, they're investable, some technology that we can see a path that you're going to be able to grow and eventually be a rock star company. I could sponsor, and then we have a second coach that comes in and sponsors, and then we bring you in the portfolio. And to be a signature company, you have to also be invited to be a signature company, but then the staff, meaning us, makes the decision on, we vote, we hear them pitch to decide what companies that eventually are going to be a signature company. And these are companies that are usually at that million or more, have got 2 or 3 employees. They've raised at least, anywhere between 1 and 5 million. They're very successful. And we have quite a few of them that are, and they eventually graduate out of our program. So they're not, there forever. But that's kind of the snapshot of how our portfolio is set up.
Wow. I mean, I actually knew, I usually deal with the people who are like at the accelerator stage, but I didn't know you guys had such a great on-ramping system with the education. So learn something new every day. So obviously our topic today is about customers, right? And so you're going to show us how to make $1 million is what I heard. You're going to come on and say, this is how you make $1 million. So I'm listening.
Right.
What do you have to do to get to $1 million? Like, what does it take?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, to get to a place, it starts with understanding your customer. I mean, it truly does. We are a big proponent of customer discovery, truly understanding who your customer is and the value that you're bringing to your customer. Too often people think that, okay, I have this really great idea, and that's the starting point. It gets you to a place of really beginning to think about, what do I do with this? But, it's not really, I guess, the end all be all. So with customer discovery, we strongly encourage the entrepreneur to really say, okay, you have this idea. Let's go see if anybody really wants or cares about what you're trying to think or do. Mm-hmm. Is there really a big problem, a big pain, a big need for what you're specifically trying to bring to market? And if so, who is that particular customer segment that would care about this specific thing that you're trying to bring to market? And so that's kind of the early place. So once you kind of uniquely understand the customer, the problem, the value you're bringing to that customer, then that's where the process of building out a business truly begins, because now you can kind of assess and size the market. Okay, I'm fundamentally solving this problem. I got 1,000 people that said they want this product. And so therefore I can start with this particular customer segment. Too often entrepreneurs say everyone's my customer. No, everyone's not your customer. You have to find out who's that unique individual that my product brings overwhelming value to, that helps them to solve a problem that they're having within a job, within a product, or something that they're doing, that your product or your service uniquely solves that problem for them. I like to use the example, I'm not going to use the airline, so I don't want no, disclaimers here. But so let's just say
that's okay. You only have an attorney listening to you.
Okay, right. So you take one of the airlines and you say, I have a product that helps turbojet fans monitor temperature. So you created a sensor that helps turbofan jets, regulate themselves. So I ask, who's your customer? Naturally, they say, well, the CEO is my customer. Well, why is the CEO my customer? Because he's the CEO of the business. No, he's not. Who's the customer? The jet mechanic, the engine guy is your
That's
customer.
right.
He's the guy who has the problem, who works on the turbine. So that's how specific and intentional you have to be about understanding who the customer is. So you have your influencer, your recommender, your economic buyer, economic decision maker, and you need to understand who they are and where they sit in that value chain. So when you talk about customer adoption of a product, so yeah, the mechanic might be the person who has the problem, but he's not necessarily the person that makes the economic decision. So the COO might be the person, or his manager. So now you have to understand the entire economic value chain of where that problem sits, where the customer sits, so that you know who's going to pay, who has the problem, and you can bring value alignment between that. And that's how you get that good customer onboarding process. And that's how you're solving large scale problems and pains. And that's how you be able to build a successful business, because you uniquely understand the customer, the problem, and the pain. And now you have a viable path for growth and scale.
Man, that's actually very accurate in terms of business owners completely convinced that the world is their customer. That, oh, and I try to tell people that, listen, the only products that are really has no competition is air and water. Right. Otherwise, no one's dying because they're not living with your product. Right. So someone's doing something already without your product, and what you're trying to do is divert their attention and money away from what they're currently doing, right, and put it into your product, et cetera. So what type of businesses really have to concentrate on their customers in terms of what you see? Because, for example, even in law, I have to focus in on business owners, knowing that, only 2 to 3% of my friends are going to watch this video, right? Understanding that the whole world is not my client. But what type of businesses do you typically see hey, you know what? The reason you're not getting to $1 million is because you're not really focusing in on the customer in the tech space. Do you see a lot?
Yeah. Oh God, that's a pretty loaded question. I mean, there's a lot of businesses. I think what I see is that I'm trying to find a good example, and I'll just use app as an example, since you use the word.
Now later app.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You obviously, there's this thing called a two-sided market. Okay. It's like, okay, you got the customer, you got the business, and you can eventually service two, but where are you really going to get the scale and where you're really going to get the growth? So if you're building this particular app and, okay, you want to sell now laters. Okay, great. Who is the customer does the company who's making the now laters, do they have a problem in reaching the customer? And the tool that you're creating, does it help them reach that customer more? Or is it the customer really has the challenge with finding the now laters because they can't ever find them? So they need the app because it helps them to connect with the supplier, so to speak. So it's uniquely understanding where is that true difference. And so I see entrepreneurs having a hard time really sifting through, I know it can service everybody, but where do I kind of slow down and focus, so to speak? So it's like, here's that early beachhead market. So if your customer discovery evidence supports more towards the manufacturer or the companies that say, hey, we need to reach more customers, then shift your business to that. That doesn't mean you don't scale and grow into the other thing. It just means, here's my early start point first. Let me start here and then kind of grow into scale into this. And so I see young entrepreneurs or companies or tech companies or just product companies, period, really struggle with, where do I spend most of my time first? And my response is always say, hey, listen, even companies that have that $100 billion, $200 billion, whatever, they have a hard time scaling multiple products at one time. It just requires a lot of energy and effort and time. So don't be afraid or ashamed to focus on one thing, scale that, perfect that, and then build the infrastructure and the scale and the roadmap into those other things. And I think that's where a lot of young entrepreneurs get stuck and have a hard time with focusing and onboarding and narrowing in on that customer, and where they see kind of marginal growth as opposed to that hyper growth, because they don't know how to focus in on that one thing, scale that one thing. And you see that a lot in tech companies as well. It's like, okay, I want to be everything to everyone, where Facebook started out as just an interconnected point between students and a platform. And now it's scaled into this, marketing platform, marketing monster that, that everyone uses the platform, but it didn't just jump into that. It's scaled into that because they begin to understand the customer and the customer's problem and their need and how they were consuming their product.
So I think I understand what you're saying, right? I understand that I got to figure on my customer. What happens with business owners though, we get so into what we've been doing already, right? Like, hey man, you tweak my system. I got people who pay for an LLC, right? I got people who are buying this water already. And, how do you get them from the safe place of like, hey, I'm making a little bit of money doing this to like, hey, you got a big customer market out there. It's much bigger than your vision, but they're every day grinding on that same treadmill. So you almost got to move them over into another treadmill while they're like, no, this works for me. Because, as business owners, you start getting somebody give you a paycheck and they start paying you. So you feel like I'm in the right lane because somebody's paying for this service or product.
Right.
How do you say, like, Dave, you're doing what you're doing, but you need to understand it's a much bigger base. Like, what does that process look like when we come to you?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, we got to make a distinction. Are you going to be a lifestyle business or are you going to be a global business? And, you got to build with the end in mind. And what are the decisions and the steps that need to go in play that you need to put in play to get you to that global business? And there's wrong with lifestyle businesses. There's nothing wrong with building a business that says, hey, this business is good to me. It's good to my family. It's a good business. I'm able to hire a couple people. We're comfortable. There's nothing wrong with that. But if there's aspirations of really taking the product and growing it into, this big major global brand where, you're the new Dasani, so to speak. That's a strategy. That's
positivity.
Your positivity, right. So there's a purpose and intent behind that, and so it works out. Well, what is the reason and the method and the process? It's like, okay, there's a reason why you named it that, and so how big do you want that message to be? And so, and with that, that means that you're going to have to make some, an investment on, do I stay here local or do I go global? And those are two different paths, so the decisions that you make from being a local business are going to be vastly different than the decisions that you're going to make to be a global business. And I think that and you have to go back and do your homework, and do some customer discovery, market research on, okay, what is the viable path for me, David, in getting my bottle of water to that next level? Do I need partnerships? Is there a particular market segment that I have access to that, let's just say, a Dasani water doesn't have access to? And if not, how do I figure out that using that channel, using that relationship to scale my product to a global stage? And so that's where you have to leverage partnerships in this equation. You may have the capital to do the global thing and you may not, but partnerships are a really good way, leveraging the channel in which your product sits in, the ecosystem of where your product sits in, and begin to build those relationships out so that you can grow their product from a regional, local to a global level.
So if I decide to take on this journey where I'm going to start to focus in on sort of the global aspect instead of the lifestyle, which I think is a great analogy, right? I think those people who are in lifestyle businesses are probably, even if we're entrepreneurs, are still scared at the idea of global. Like, oh, this guy just skipped over my neighborhood and went to the world. Like, what does he think? I have $1 billion to get to the world? So what type of time should I allow myself as a business owner to make all this happen? Should this be like an overnight thing where like, okay, I heard Nakia tonight, I'm going global? Or is it like a couple days, a weeks, years? Like how should we shift our mindset? How long should we take to shift our mindset and get this done?
Yeah. So, you first got to do, be honest about where you are and a true honest assessment. And that assessment is like, okay, what is my capability and capacity within myself, within my team right now? And, to your point earlier, what additional resources or relationships do I need to move to the next level? And that may require someone that has understanding of large scale global partnerships with, selling into these larger brands or having larger business, selling into different regions. So it's one thing, it's like, okay, now it's got to understand the business aspect of, I got this business, but yet I want to sell into another region. You just don't just put up a website and say, okay, I'm gonna start selling to that region. You need local assets. You need people who understand what it's like to create the market penetration or country penetration. And sometimes you start out with your local embassy and their local embassies, and how do you do business in their local chambers? So it's, what are some of the resources and the assets you need in order to, like I said, to kind of grow and scale that business. So when you've got a good understanding of where your assets are now, then you can say, okay, we need someone who is good at building out sales strategies. We need someone who's good at building out these partnerships with good corporations. Okay, we need someone that is good at global distribution, that can reproduce and manufacture and distribute our water in XYZ countries, or all of these different things. Or maybe partnership with Coke or someone that has large bottling manufacturing, where you could build partnerships with, or Amazon, or someone that has that global reach and the tentacles, and work out those early partnerships. It may seem a little unfair at first from an economic standpoint, but it's like, okay, am I going to worry about the economic aspect, or am I going to worry about the global reach part? And so when you figure out the global reach part, and then you begin to say, okay, and as you begin to build your own legs, so to speak, to stand on, then you can kind of scale back some of these other high cost operations that you're kind of engaging in, because now you have the bandwidth and the runway, the financial means to onboard some of the talent that you're outsourcing to other people, and start to bring that self in-house, to where you can really grow and scale. So timing this thing out, like, where do we want to be? Like, set a goal. Like, okay, we want to be in Puerto Rico and Mexico and South Africa in the next 24 months. Okay, then what do you need to do that? Who do you need to partner with for that to happen? And what is the economic cost to that? And then how do you put the boots on the ground, so to speak, to make that happen?
That's interesting, because it folds right into what we talked about earlier, is two things: outsourcing things you don't understand. If you don't know how to go global, find someone who does know how to go global. And then networking. I mean, even as business owners, and if you're in the lifestyle business and you're comfortable, you still need to go out, meet the Nakias of the world, meet the Shars and the Daves of the world, because every day is the new journey to things. I now feel bad that I'm not global, and I'm going to tell our whole team, we need to be global. Set bigger goals. One of the things I like is that, not just the idea that, you have to outsource things that you don't understand, but the idea that, this is not something that happens overnight, right? It's about having access to information. It's about putting yourself in a position to sort of set these goals. I have an outrageous goal. My outrageous goal is to have a Super Bowl trophy. Right. I can only get it. There's only one way to get it left. I can't get it as a player or coach. I got to get it as an NFL owner. So I have an outrageous goal to own an NFL team and win the Super Bowl. And my goal timeline is before I die. So as long as I'm alive, everything that I do is set to that goal. But to your point, there's little steps in between that you have to start moving in that direction. I think sometimes business owners put too much pressure on themselves for this step, that the pressure can come somewhat overwhelming, and you just fall back into a comfort zone, right? You're just like, oh, the kid's right. I got to go out. I got to go to the ATDC. I got to meet other people. I got to go global. And then they just go, no, I'm just going to get this out for this client today, and they fall back into it. How do you keep them on that idea every day of pursuing and trying to move towards that goal?
Yeah, I am relentless in pushing everyone that I engage to push them beyond their limitations, in every aspect of their thinking. And if you don't have a pace, I'm gonna set a pace for you, and I'm gonna push you on that pace. And then I'm gonna make sure that, if nothing else, I overwhelm you with enough information that you take some action. I think in keeping an entrepreneur motivated, it's one, letting them know that I'm here to support you. I'm right here with you. I'm in the trenches with you. I will give you everything I have, as long as you're giving everything you have. And the beautiful thing is I don't ever want anything in return. I just want to see you succeed. And I know that I'm gifted with the talent and the things that I'm blessed and gifted with. And it's to service you. I mean, the reality of it is, so for me, keeping the entrepreneur focused and motivated is like, don't be afraid to dream. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. I mean, we put limitations on ourselves by saying, I'm not equipped, I'm not adequate, I don't have any of these things. But when we look at some of the greatest technologies and innovations that have happened in the world were created by people who didn't have education or didn't have certain access to things. And so, I mean, the Wright brothers, they weren't aerospace engineers, but they had a problem in a bicycle and thought about it, and they figured out flight. So I think that if they can do it, you can do it. And I think, and it's for me, my job as a coach, as the mentor, as the person that works with you, is to fill the gaps for your blind spots and to leverage my network and to leverage the information and the things I know in my experience to help you along the way. And that's not to say that you're not going to get discouraged. You're not going to have those moments of doubt or disbelief. That's just natural. I mean, we're all human. I get it, as well. But I think overall, it's just to kind of keep you focused and helping you to really understand your vision. And once that thing clicks in you and this is for you, the motivating you part is really not going to be that hard.
That's awesome, man. I'm ready. I'm ready to go global. If you haven't heard it, look, man, I got your energy. I feel you. I think that, we need this, right? Because sometimes we feel like it's not possible. And here you are like, man, why are you not global? What's taking you so long? And I think that you offering that energy and being there for entrepreneurs this morning to do this has been excellent. Shar, if you have any questions or anyone else on the video or on chat or Facebook Live have any questions, you want to toss those out to Nakia. This is excellent information. I'm taking some really good notes.
Okay, well, one of the questions that we have so far are, what are some of the strategies an entrepreneur can use to figure out who is their target customer? And everyone, feel free to unmute yourself and start your video if you would like. And you can either post your question on our Facebook Live or right here in the chat room, or just ask Nakia and David yourself.
Yeah, so it starts off with, we use this thing called the business model canvas, which is I'm sure some of you might have heard, some of you might not have heard of it, but it's a tool that we use, and it's basically your notebook, so to speak, where you're recording information from your customers. You're going out, you're doing customer discovery, you're identifying a customer, and you're using that to kind of say, okay, here are my top 3 customers. And here is the value that I believe I'm bringing to these customers. Now, when you go do customer interviews, one of the things that people mistake is they go and try to sell as opposed to doing customer interviews. And what I mean by that is suspend your bias as to what you think, and then forget your tech, forget your product, and then begin to ask questions around what your product is, but without basically letting them know what it is, and to see if there is a problem, to see if they say, man, I sure wish I had that positivity water because it just tastes so soft, and man, it's so electrifying, or I had some kind of water that had this taste, and you're like, oh, and you're thinking in your mind, oh, great, I have that water. You don't tell them that, but then now I found a customer there. So that's kind of one of the places. So customer discovery is always going to be that first place, that first plug, that first tool. And that's one of the things that we do at ATDC in our Educate. We help walk you through the customer discovery process. We help walk you through how to do customer interviews and how do you get, to what a customer really needs and a customer's really problem. So that's one of some of the strategies you can do.
That was great. I mean, I learned from that. So again, instead of instead of us going around telling people about what positivity is, we're just going to say, hey, well, if you want great hydration and you're looking for something that can help balance your cholesterol and your pH level, we can ask those kind of questions. And David is shaking his head no.
You know why I'm shaking my head? It's not no to your idea. I'm just going to hire Nakia. Shar, you know me. I got to get back to what I'm doing. I'm like, Nakia, I'm paying you. What do I pay you? So are you for hire, Nakia, or you work through ATDC? Can somebody hire you directly? How do you work?
Yeah, so of course, me, I've always given everything away for free, but for me, it's if you come to ATDC, I'm here to support you. There's no cost associated.
I could go global for free. I'm in.
No cost associated to that other than paying your membership fees there. As it relates to my personal business, then that is the cost is obviously different with my business iDesign project, which is uniquely focused on how to commercialize and what that path. So that cost varies. And I know that's kind of like not the right answer, but
you are for hire. You
yes.
you are for hire. We all want to get revenue. I mean, we're all doing this for free today, and at the cost of missing College Game Day Live, which is being recorded. But everything has a cost. So
yeah,
we have
but I will say this though, when it comes to me, I don't, I know we live in a world where we got to bill people, we got to get paid and all that good stuff. But I can honestly, genuinely say that cost and charging is the last thing I think about. And I genuinely want to see people succeed. And oftentimes, I am led to not charge or not do certain things, because I know where my source comes from. And in that, I'm okay with that, but more importantly, those who don't have access to high quality information, coaching and access, I don't want that to ever be the reason why you don't ever reach out to me or something like that.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, we got some questions. Anybody want to speak up? Go ahead, Robert.
Yes, I have a question. In terms of the current stay in place things that are going on with COVID-19, how does ATDC work with that in terms of being a member for a quarter and doing the courses and all that?
Yeah, so if I'm understanding correctly, I mean we're still going strong. Our attendance has picked up, our engagement with entrepreneurs has picked up. We've had more of a captive audience. We've moved all of our services virtually. Of course, no face-to-face because of COVID. But more importantly, we spend most of our time still helping the entrepreneurs, still doing the activities that we do. Of course, our course is, it's $100 a quarter for Educate to join. But be perfectly honest with you, when you get in, you see the value of what we bring. It's like, man, this is the best $100 I've ever spent. And like I said, don't let the cost. I don't set the cost. That's a Georgia Tech thing. So I have nothing to do with that. Georgia Tech and the state thing. But more importantly, to be able to get access to customers and entrepreneurs that are coaches that are part of us that have raised money, that are investors, the network is it's crazy. I think last year, ATDC companies total raised a little over $100 million. Wow. So we've got some real rock star people, rock star director, associate director, coaches. All of us are very committed to and very seasoned in helping entrepreneurs.
Man, you've given $100 worth of knowledge today alone. That's unbelievable. I didn't know that about ATDC. I thought you had to be a destined, huge app to get into ATDC, and that, there's only the rich people and only the good businesses that have 1 million followers can get into ATDC. And you're saying to me that, no, it's $100 and come in and meet all these people and go to a global and make $1 million. It's easy.
So Nakia, let me ask you this. If somebody wants to get involved with ATDC, is there a website or something that they go, where do they go to get involved?
Involved in like what capacity? Like
as far as being part of the program?
Yeah. So they go to atdc.org and they see where it says become and educate. And then you just fill out, and then you'll get some links that will set you to be able to kind of set up your profile. And if nothing else, the classes, being able to take advantage of the classes and the resources, like for instance, we do this thing called financial literacy, where we literally walk you through your numbers, which is one of the hardest things entrepreneurs have when it comes to building out their business. So we have a financial model that we walk you through how to get how to pull your numbers together, And it's a model that you can actually take away with you and use it, and, you know, send it to a bank or wherever you want to use it. But that's one of the things that we use. And then we have investor readiness, which is the class that follows right after financial literacy. And that's phenomenal. Everything, we walk you through everything from how to pitch to how to put your pitch deck together to understanding, you know, what it means to receive investment and all those things. So we have some, like I said, great resources, and these are led by some of our mentors along with some of our staff, and some of the mentors that are actually local angel investors and local venture capitals as well in the city.
And so I have a question for you. One of the things that you mentioned before that really got me intrigued in bringing you on to talk about get, keep, grow strategies to avoid customer turnover. You talked about the ability to find new products and services that you offer for your existing customers. Can you just kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So the get, keep, grow process is a very unique thing. It's unique in a way that it forces you to think about, when you think about the get part of it, that's the awareness, the interest, the consideration, that intent to purchase your product, and what are the activities that go into that. And that might be paid media, paid ads, commercials. What activities, you know, are you doing to kind of onboard these customers? And why you need to be very specific. So the example that I used earlier about the jet mechanic, you know, so obviously there are certain places that this jet mechanic frequents, certain magazines, certain conferences, certain areas that where that customer segment or customer type resides. And so you need to be very focused and intentional about reaching that particular customer in the area where he consumes similar or like technologies or services such as yours. So you can't just say, we'll just put up a Facebook account, social media, and market and advertise, and they'll come. Yeah, you'll get some people that will have interest, but you're really not going to get the people that are really going to onboard because your efforts are not very focused at the customer that you want to get. And so then you think about the keep aspect of it. The keep aspect of it is what are the things that you do to keep the customer, to continue to keep them on board? Like, for instance, like, do you have loyalty programs? Do you have product updates? Do you have customer satisfaction surveys, customer call check-ins? What are the activities that you do to kind of maintain the maintenance and keep that client? So how are you rewarding them? Like, okay, they purchased 5,000 cases of your water. Are you giving them 20% discount now?
You get a t-shirt. You get a t-shirt.
You get a t-shirt. Right. So what are some of those activities that you're doing to kind of keep that customer? Then you look at the grow aspect of the customer. The grow activities are, you know, are there any unbundling, upselling, cross sells, references, you know, all these things that you do to grow the customer. Are you introducing new product brands or new products? Are you got new exciting relationships that you have that you're trying to onboard into your workflow, business workflow, your acquisition funnel, so to speak. And so all of that that becomes a nice viral loop of your get, keep, and grow. And so all of these activities need to be maintained. You need to understand what is the lifetime value of your customer. You need to understand what is the customer acquisition cost for each customer. Where are you acquiring these customers? Because that's where you get that true value of the customer. But one of the things that also small businesses don't understand or focus on is that churn. What is that churn? Like customers that are coming in and leaving, coming in and leaving. And what is that economic churn to you? Like, what is the cost of that customer leaving you to the cost, would it cost you to get that customer? Because if there is an unbalance there where you're losing money as opposed to gaining money, you need to figure out, how do I patch that churn so we're not leaving customers? And sometimes in that keep experience, it may be because don't have any loyalty programs, or you don't have anything where you're kind of making sure that you're letting the customers know, hey, listen, I appreciate that you're my customer. And you know, nothing worse than you hear this exciting product and you're willing to move and you're willing to engage with this business, but then now it's like 10 years later they got the same product later. You know, it's like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, well, there was no growth. You know, customers want to grow. They want to feel like, you know, you're growing too. They want to feel like they're growing along with you. So you got to consider all of those things as well.
Man, that's awesome.
Kia, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What are some books about entrepreneurship that you are currently reading or have read in the past?
Oh yeah. Oh God. Let me break out my iPhone there. I mean, I'm an avid reader. Love to read. Let me see here. I'll let you know what's in my library of books that I read. So one of them is by Ben Horowitz. The hard thing about the hard things is a good book. The Business Model You is a good book. The Lean Startup by Eric Ries is another good book. And then here's another book. It's not so much about business, but it's more about leadership and people. And it's called Talent is Overrated by Jeff Colvin.
I like the title already.
Yeah. And then there's another book called Just Listen. That was a good book. And here's another book too, especially if you're in sales. Anybody who's in sales need to hear this book, read this book, dissect this book, own this book. It's called Sway. It's the irresistible pull of irrational behavior. That is when I tell you that book will fundamentally change how you think about customer development and sales. And then the last two I'll give you is one is called The Paradox of Choice, Why More is Less by Barry Schwartz. And the last one by Simon Sinek is Start with Why. Those are some really, phenomenal books that everyone should listen, read, however you consume your media, your entertainment. For me, when I work out, I listen to podcasts and books and things like that. You never have, as an entrepreneur, you got to continue to feed that thing, feed that spirit, feed that monster, so to speak. If you want that muscle to grow, to be strong, and also get outside your sphere of influence, so to speak, and start making relationships, connections, and engaging with people that don't look like you, don't sound like you, that have a certain set of skills that is beyond where your set of skills are, because by default, they'll pull you along without you even asking to be pulled along, and you'll be in a better place.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Wow. This has been helpful. We just want to let everybody know that we do this, we used to do it every other week, but we're trying to figure out the right time. We might go to a weekday night as opposed to Saturday morning. Things that we'll consider is to try to find more engaging topics for business owners to hear. And me as a business attorney, dealing with the clients on a day-to-day basis, and I enjoy what I do. And I think you can see that Nakia enjoys what he does, working with entrepreneurs and asking them the tough questions, but also be in a safe space where they can come in and talk and be, of service to them. So I'm always here to listen and talk to people. I have a free consultation that I give for 15 minutes if people have some specific questions. A lot of times people are not just putting their boat into the river because something small that's happening. It's usually something that they, can't get through or think about. And sometimes it's customers. They have a great idea, but they don't have any customers. So that's been great. Shar, is there anything else that I'm missing in terms of housekeeping things? You want to wrap it up for us?
Yeah, well, again, everybody, thank you for coming out to the Business Owner Mindset. We have several episodes that we've done. We started off with what is the mindset of a business owner, and that was just kind of get everybody geared up to thinking about what does that look like for us in 2020. We then talked about, I'm a business owner, I don't want to be sued. So what does that mean? Then how to get your LLC, your EIN number. From there, we moved into operating agreements and business bank accounts. And after that, we had our first business owner spotlight. Dave was going through football withdrawals, so we had to, I'm going to go back to that slide. We had to get Spencer Charles up here to talk about pivoting in the NFL during a global pandemic. We're continued on with our Beyond Business Formation with our business license and insurance. We did taxes. We kind of had a little technical difficulties one week and had to pivot to another week. And then this week we're here at Get, Keep, Grow, strategies to avoid customer turnover. So we hope everyone will connect with us at our Facebook page and our LinkedIn group or on Eventbrite, because at the end of the day, we're here to make sure that everyone opens their minds to open their business. And of course, we want to thank our sponsor, Positivity Alkaline Water, where you can think positive and drink positivity water. We're just so excited about the growth of our brand right now. We've been doing some phenomenal things over the last several weeks. So go and connect with us on our LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and definitely on Instagram. You'll just see all of the exciting news that we have. Look out for our next free case giveaway. Stop by our location at Wendy Hill and I-75 and pick up a case of Positivity Alkaline Water. So on that note, I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. Remember, Positivity Alkaline Water, we're here to keep you hydrated.